You have to do that because without happiness and not fulfilling your soul, then what meaning does it have?
Welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Taryn McCarthy, and thank you so much for joining us on our last episode, Superpowers and Achilles' Heels. And today we're going to be speaking about some more superpowers and a superhero, if you will, in my mind. This is an incredible woman I cannot wait to introduce to you. She is a mommy dentist, a business owner, and pediatric dentist at a very successful practice in Chicago. She is also a podcaster and founder of, and this is how I knew her best, founder of Mommy Dentists in Business Media Network and this incredible community online. She is a lover of fashion, and this is Dr. Grace Yum. Dr. Yum, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Taryn. That was quite the intro. I'm blushing.
I hope I mentioned everything because you seem to do it all.
Thank you. I have to be honest. I like to have my hands in a lot of everything.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's so cool because you do it so well, and it really is inspirational to those of us that really would love to do everything and do a little bit of everything and follow our dreams in multiple pursuits. Where did you start? I think most of my dental mamas know about you, but for the rest of my audience, give us a little bit of a background of who you are and where you started.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. I have to say, I started in dentistry when I was in college at Northwestern University, where I studied communications. I was in the School of Speech. However, my part time job to make some extra cash for beer, I had to work, and actually not had to, but wanted to work in the dental office because my family dentist, Dr. Sam Yoon, who was a professor also at Northwestern's dental school, his daughter was an orthodontist, or still is. She's still practicing, but doesn't live in Chicago. She was working at different offices, and I was her Saturday dental assistant
Huh.
and learned mostly orthodontics. And I followed her everywhere she went. So if she worked in Buffalo Grove, I went there. If she worked in Evanston, I was there. And if wherever she worked, I went with her and got my hands wet, loved it, but still thought that I was supposed to be a journalist.
Ah.
But while I worked part-time, a lot of the dentists would tell me, especially if I wasn't assisting Cecile, they would say, "You've got some really great hand skills. You're really good with your hands. You're a fast learner. You pick it up quickly. You should think about going to dental school." And my response was, "No, thanks." But Cecile, being a good mentor, she encouraged me to take just the basic courses. She said, "Why don't you just take some of the prerequisites in case you change your mind? And that way you'll have them under your belt, and it still gives you the opportunity to apply at a later time if you change your mind." So I listened to her, and science was not my forte, but I made it through, took the basics, and she was right. After I graduated, I did work for a year, missed working in the dental office,
Ah.
and then applied. And then the following year, went to dental school. So that was my start. And I haven't looked back since. But I have to say that my passion for communications is what's being elevated right now. And therefore, the podcast, the
Yeah.
social media following, the groups. And now I get to showcase the personality side of who I am and not just the career side. And that's what I'm really having fun with now
Yeah.
is the fashion and the Instagram and another side of my personal life where other people I think can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun. I recently sold actually two practices
Ah,
in September in the height of the pandemic
wow.
and am solely focused on the online community.
Oh, that's a big move. That's phenomenal. Wow. What drove you to make that big change?
Well, last year, 2019, it took me a whole year to hem and haw about what
Mm,
to do.
mm,
I have to be honest, it wasn't feeding my soul anymore.
yeah.
And I had raised all my patients. My oldest patients are out of college,
Wow.
and all these new ones are coming in, and all these babies are coming in. And I felt that I did my part. I felt that I've raised my patients. I felt that I was there when I needed them. And now my kids are at an age where they need me.
Yeah.
And it took me a whole year to decide. And it was hard because my two practices were my babies as well and built them from scratch, new construction, poured my heart and soul, but I felt ready. And January of 2020 is when I decided to list them
Mm,
anonymously
mm,
on the Chicago Dental Society classifieds. And I sold without a broker.
mm,
I did it by myself and I'm really happy now and I haven't looked back. I have no regrets. Do I miss clinical dentistry? I miss the hands on.
mm.
I miss the people that I work with, but I have zero regrets.
Wow. I think that there's so many men and women in similar situations that have had a whisper for months, maybe years, telling them they need to change, either in a big change or in a small change. And kind of that whisper doesn't go away. What advice do you have for specifically those of us in the dental field who may be feeling that way?
The best advice I can give you is to not ignore that voice and not to be afraid
Mm,
because it takes time to pivot. You don't want to feel stuck. You
mm,
don't want to feel woulda, shoulda, coulda. And a lot of people are afraid to move because they don't know what's on the other side, or they're
yeah,
afraid that they can't replace their income, or they're just afraid, or their thinking and mindset is, well, I'm supposed to be a dentist until I'm 70 years old. But the truth is, people change careers quite a bit in their lifetime,
yeah,
and it shouldn't and define you. And it does, though. When
yeah,
you're a dentist and that is your life calling and your mission, it defines you to a degree, and that is who you identify with first and foremost. And people are afraid to give that up. People think, well, if I don't practice dentistry, then who am I? What
yeah,
am I? But the the point of it is you need to be happy too
yeah,
and really look deep down inside because if you linger there too long and you stay there too long, when it is time to sell or time to move on, you might be at a rush because it takes time. It takes, 9 months to a year to do that. And my other piece of advice is the minute you feel that way, start that process because it takes time. You don't just snap your fingers and walk away. And you don't want to be in a position where you start to practice less and you think, oh, you know what? If I just do less chairside, I'll be happier. If I
yeah,
just run the practice, I'll be happier. And then you might do that, but guess what? If you're not producing, then you're paying somebody else to produce. You are less profitable. And then when you go to sell, you're going to be selling a practice that's less profitable than if you were to sell when you were practicing
Mm,
at a profit. So you really have to think about that and think strategy and numbers, how to sell, when to sell. And it's like stock market. You want to,
mm.
you have to strategize and plan it because you work so hard to build something. You build something with your bare hands. Why sell at a lower price than it really can be sold at a higher price? So
Yeah.
think about that. Really think about that.
I think that's really great advice. I think also the fear of what else there is beyond holds a lot of people back. Do you find that that's true, that being
Yes.
anxious about what else would there be?
Yes. I mean, I think that's of that question is a very daunting question. And I see it pop up in the group, actually, in the Facebook
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Well, if you weren't doing dentistry, what would you be doing? And
Yeah.
a lot of times, what I read is I would be a chef, or I would
Mm.
be a makeup artist. I would be this, or I would be that. And it's like, okay, I get it. But the fear is, well, what can I transition to that's going to make the same amount of money? And I
Yeah.
think that financial freedom is what holds people back, and they're being fiscally responsible. So there is some of that. There's some of that where people have to be responsible to their families or their children. And so therefore they need to continue because dentistry is expensive from the get go. I mean,
Absolutely.
all the education, the money that you pour into it, the office that you build, the business loan, it's not a small figure.
Absolutely. I think that that's one thing I hear from a lot of my colleagues as well, is that once you wake up one morning as a dentist with the business loans and the student loans and all the other debt that you've created around yourself, if you have that feeling that maybe this isn't for me, many women especially feel stuck and
Mhm.
feel like they've put themselves on a trajectory that they can't change. What would you say to those people who feel beholden by debt and by the financial responsibilities that they've already put into place?
Yeah, it's like golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
And that is a very difficult place to be, a very difficult situation. I would advise making sure you have a financial plan, making
Mhm.
sure you have experts to help guide you to whittle away at that, living within your means and saving enough so that you can whittle away at those loans and the debt so that you can have financial freedom. And what that looks like for everyone is a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are single parents, single moms, so it's harder in that regard. But then there are some who are married where the husband stays home and takes care. They're the breadwinner, so that situation can be difficult. So I think that everyone is in a different place financially. And the best thing to do is have a plan, because if you're just kind of wandering and squandering without one, you may feel like you're in this deep rabbit hole and can't get out or can't climb out. And then they don't start saving for retirement.
Yep.
And you need to put away money for retirement, even if it's only like $20 a week. Like, you need to
Yeah.
start somewhere.
I think you bring up retirement because I also see something very similar with dentists who go into retirement and then once again feel bereft of purpose. If all their purpose was always invested in their clinical practice. So, what do you think about dentists in particular having side interests and having other pursuits other than just what they're doing in their practice every day?
I think it's a wonderful thing.
Mm,
Dentists are very multifaceted people. There are so many things that dentists in general can pursue. I mean, artistry, we're really good at that.
yeah.
Science, research. There's just so much out there. you know,
Yeah.
baking, like, oh my gosh, I see some of these women that are like professional bakers. I'm like, how in the world did you make that? But there are so many other opportunities. And I think that really, if I had to make a really educated guess, it's the money that holds them back.
Yeah.
So that is probably where they feel stuck.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. And I think that as we're moving forward in time, there's going to be, and there already has started to be, a shift in the definition of success and maybe a new introduction of what success is. And a big part of that, I'm convinced, is going to be the happiness and fulfillment part. It seems like you've been on this journey over the past few years. Do you think that you can have a full time dental career and be a mom and have this side hustle, side interest, side hobby, and do all of that and still find fulfillment and happiness?
I think anything's possible. Anything's possible as long as you have a plan.
Got it.
You can't just willy-nilly do things. I For me, I'm a big believer in strategy.
Hmm.
I am gonna I mean, I'm gonna say dentists are detail-oriented people.
Yes.
Dentists are risk adverse.
Yes.
Dentists like predictability. Dentists want to know the facts. They don't just jump into things. But on the flip side, dentists are also perfectionists.
Yes.
And that personality could be bad too. It can be something that is not a good trait, even though in dentistry, it is a great trait. So it's a yin and a yang, and it's constantly butting of the heads within your personality scheme, if you will. And I think that you can do it all. And if you want to do it all and you want to execute well, you have to plan. But in that planning, you have to be realistic
Yeah.
and have a lot of help in order to elevate what you're doing and have a side hustle and be a practice owner and be there for your kids. It takes a village. It takes a lot of people to help you understanding what your weaknesses are and then finding people to complement you in filling the holes. That is really important. People ask me, how do you do everything? And I tell them I don't. I
Yeah.
don't do everything. I try to only do the things that I know how to do and let everybody else do the rest. And that comes with personality, that comes with knowing yourself, that comes with recognizing where you fall short.
So, what weaknesses have you identified and where have you fallen short and recognized the excellence and skill that somebody else can add to compensate?
I am a visionary. Um, my past coach, she put me on some kind of personality test thing, and she said, "You're a maverick." She's like, "You're the person that's going
Yeah.
to get in a plane and you're going to fly upside down and all around and try new tricks, and you're going to ski downhill with your hair on fire backwards." And, that's kind of my personality. And I know that I need to surround myself with people that are executors of all
Mm,
my ideas.
mm,
So, people that are into the fine details, people that are going to say, okay, well, if you want to do this, then we need to do A, B, C, D, E,
yeah.
and so I am always looking for people to add to my team that are kind of like, who I like to add. I like to add school teachers.
Ah,
I've had 3 school teachers on my team, and they're really organized. I
Yeah.
mean, they're used to planning ahead, planners, lesson planning. They know how to work with people.
Yeah.
They know how to work with large groups. They know how to juggle a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
They are multifaceted. They're wonderful and they
Yeah.
have people skills and they're warm and they're friendly. Um, that is that is what I like to work with. That type of person is what I like to work with. I like to work with people that are like teachers that can handle a big workload, but also understand that work isn't necessarily 9 to 5.
So, was there ever a time in your life, Dr. Yum, where you were trying to do it all when you had this realization and this understanding that you can't do it alone?
Definitely. I mean, it starts in the dental office.
Hmm.
You can't be a solo practitioner and have no assistants.
Hmm.
You need someone at the front desk. You need someone to chairside assist. You need the extra hand. I mean, in dental school, you could do it, but you were seeing one patient for 3 hours. And maybe you had a dental assistant.
Uh,
Um, but you learn teamwork in dental school. You learn teamwork in dentistry. Like dentistry is teamwork. You cannot not work by yourself as a solo. You can be a solo practitioner as in you're the only doctor in the office, but you need at least one other person.
yeah,
There's no way around that. You have to have one other person.
absolutely. How does this translate into family life? Do I know you mentioned single moms, and also you as a parent in your family unit. How does teamwork affect, or do you need teamwork as a parent and in a family unit?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, you do. You need to have, if you're married, you need to have your partner, you and your partner have to be a team.
Mm,
First and foremost, communication. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Because you can't do it all by yourself. You cannot do constantly doing laundry, washing dishes, cleaning the house, kids' schedule, kids' activities, teacher conference, homework. There's no way that one person can balance all that and then balance your social calendar on top of that.
mm,
Date nights or going on dates with friends or scheduling your doctor's visits. Like there's just so much that goes around in the house. If you can afford it, even at the basic level, get a mother's helper, maybe your neighbor who's like 15.
mm,
Have her come in, play with the kids, help with the groceries, just an extra hand so
yeah,
that you can get things done. I'm sure that there are a lot of teenagers in your neighborhood that want extra money to do whatever, Venmo that. It's so easy, right? Like
right.
there's so much college kids that can do a lot of these things like folding laundry,
Yeah,
cleaning up, tidying up, doing loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher. I mean, even the smallest things like that, maybe 2 times a week for 2 hours. That's help. That is like so, what's more aggravating than working all day seeing patients, having had a difficult case, coming home to a mess. And now you have to clean up the mess, make dinner. I say food prep is probably meal prep, that's probably up there. Make it easier on yourself. If you can afford a nanny or a house manager, get one. Maybe you don't need them full time, but even part time. Get a personal assistant because people that I meet tell me I can't afford it.
mm,
So honestly, it's not about can I afford it? It's about do you want to afford it? And how much will that change your life?
well, and I think some of it has to do with prioritizing your own life. I think that's especially in the healthcare professions, we tend to give so much of ourselves that it almost becomes a habit of giving and giving and giving and never allowing yourself a moment to fill your own cup. Do you find that that is common in the dental field as well as other healthcare professions? Do you see that?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. You know what though? I have to I have to say that self-care, the quote self-care is used in a more of a commercialized way.
absolutely.
And self-care doesn't have to mean getting a massage and getting a manicure. It means just having downtime. Maybe it's 20 minutes of yoga. Maybe it's 10 minutes of meditation, but just turning your brain off for just a little bit, because then you look at media and you look at like all the commercials are like self-care, self-care, self-care. And then it becomes like, oh my God, now I have to do self-care. Throw
Yeah.
that on the list. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's just like, no, that's not the point of it.
Yeah.
People are throwing that term around, and now it's like you look at it like, God, when am I going to have time for self care? Now I have to add that to the list of things that I have to do, and it becomes a funny word. I kind of feel like, no, you know what? It just means relax.
Yeah.
Do something that's going to make you relax, and that could mean lay down on the couch and watch TV, mindless TV for 30 minutes. That right there is self care.
And it's different for every person.
Right,
That's the other thing. I think
right,
just as much as success is defined differently for every person, and trying to live up to somebody else's idea of success is futile. I think the same is probably true for self care.
right, right. Definitely. Some people who are introverted, self care to them is taking a bath, reading their favorite book, locking themselves in the bathroom, and that's it
Yeah,
for an hour. Yeah.
absolutely. So one of the ways that I came across you is through Mommy Dentists in Business, and specifically on the Facebook group. And I know it was a huge support to so many business owners during the pandemic, the early days of the pandemic, when everyone was just looking for number one, leadership, and number two, community. And Mommy Dentists in Business was such a phenomenal resource in that regard. Tell us about how you started it, why you started it.
Good question. I started it June of 2017. I was in New Orleans when I started the Facebook group at the Roosevelt Hotel on a business trip with my husband, who is there for his client. He is a former attorney. He's a trademarks attorney, but now he does the business side of law and does mergers and acquisitions. One of his clients was having their annual law firm retreat meeting, and they have over 200 attorneys. And it was being held at the Roosevelt, and he wanted me to join. So I went. And of course, whenever you go somewhere out of town, things blow up at the dental office. Murphy's Law, right?
Absolutely.
So I just remember being so stressed out, and I was like, gosh, lawyers just have it so easy. They're so happy. Why are they so happy? Why are they so like all bubbly and getting to enjoy a 200 firm retreat, all paid for? All
Mm,
these lawyers, they're drinking, being merry, they're having social, there's a ball, there's dinners, there's golfing. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, why do we not have this in dentistry?
yeah.
Why are we so in dentistry? Why are we so like isolated and there's
Yeah.
only 10 of us and not 200 of us? Like, I don't understand that. And I was in a lot of dental Facebook groups, and I remember always gun shy of interacting because there's always somebody who wants to be mean to you or
Yeah.
shoot you down or question you, or you'll get a response from you don't even know who they are. Are you a student? Are you even a dentist? Or who are you? And so I just felt like I couldn't even ask questions like, I'm pregnant right now.
Mm,
How are you doing the patient schedule?
Mm,
I just want to crawl under my desk and sleep. I'm so tired.
mm,
Well, like, who's going to cover for me? Or are you guys going to use nitrous while you're pregnant? I know it's safe, but is it really?
yeah,
What are you going to do about nursing? And what are you going to do about pumping? Like, those are questions that you cannot ask in a forum where men are trying to rip you apart.
true.
So I'm like, why isn't there a space just for women, moms? There are spaces for men and women. But then I read on some of the forums and other women are ripping other women apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't nice. This isn't, what professionals should be doing to each other. I was just like, this isn't the environment in which I personally perceive dentists. I feel like we belong to a club, right? Dentists, we have our own club. And why are we being so rude and snappy and hurtful?
Mm,
Be educating each other. And why can't we be nice about it?
mm,
Like, why? I don't understand. So I said, you know what? To hell with it. I'm going to create my own group and it's just going to be for moms. And I started it and I don't know anything about at the time I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know you could make it private. I didn't know you could make it public. I didn't know you could vet people. I didn't know anything. I just started it and first day I started 100 people join.
wow.
Second day 100, like because when I started it I only added 50 of my friends. It was like 50 of my like people who I graduated with in dental school and then my people who refer to me and in the community. So there was 50 of us. But then 100 people joined. The next day 100 people joined. The next day 100 people joined. I've learned a lot about the dental industry and it's important to know where you're buying from and having those relationships. And because we have a larger group, companies are now willing to work with
Mm,
us to give us special pricing because we can buy in bulk.
mm,
And if you want the discounts, these are for the members I call the official members. There's a paid membership because these members pay me to spend time
mm.
to talk to these distributors, make it happen. It's not a 1 hour phone call. It's a lot of back and forth
Oh,
and
yeah.
execution, especially for a product that's not being sold directly. So there's a lot of things that go on and time to make that happen. But we also offer a lot of amazing continuing education. So CE,
Yes.
we have such great information. One of our dark horse webinars that had the most number of attendees this year was the Fix It webinar. And we
Huh.
had a technician teach us how to fix simple things like if your high suction isn't working, how to fix that. If your air water syringe is leaking water, how to fix that. It is so easy. And the parts, they sell you the parts, and your hygienist can change out the parts. And guess what? You just saved yourself a $250 labor charge.
It's so fun listening to you talk about the MDIBs because I still hear so much passion in your voice about it. I can just tell how passionate you are about this phenomenal service that you offer to your colleagues, even though you've stepped out of clinical practice right now. Do you see yourself continuing with the MDIBs going forward?
I am, and I do, and I love it. It's become a passion. I am right now in the middle of building out the MDIB Education Center in Chicago.
Wow.
Yes. And so we're building a space where the doctors can come. Now, again, I'm going off of the whole premise of this is a space and environment that I feel safest learning in. I'm
Huh.
asking questions. So we're building a learning center for the mommy dentist. And the education that we bring isn't something that, see, as a pediatric dentist, I don't know what general dentists want to learn. I don't know what others want to learn. I only know pedo. So I ask the group regularly, I poll the group regularly, what do you want to learn? And that's where I go and search and seek out speakers and doctors that teach so that we can bring this education to the group because that is what they asked for. So all the education, all the discounts, all of it is based on what the group wants, not because I just randomly go looking for things.
I admire so much in you that you have this vision for something, maybe a stirring inside you of something you wish you had. And instead of lamenting that it doesn't exist, you just go ahead and create it. Have you always been so courageous in business, or is this something you've had to learn?
That's a really, really good question. I think it stems from my parents who are immigrants from South Korea. They came in 1973 and they've always been small business owners and entrepreneurial. They've had many different businesses. They started here back in the 70s. The only country that was making wigs out of human hair was South Korea. So they were able to come here on a visa to sell wigs.
Wow.
And my parents had a small little wig shop.
Huh.
And then they evolved. My dad eventually had grocery stores. Then my mom had clothing stores. Then they had smaller convenience stores. Then my mom decided she wanted to go into jewelry. So she then ended up having a fine jewelry shop. And so growing up in that environment was normal to me.
Mm,
It was just that was what my family did. So to me, having a dental office and being a business owner isn't scary. It's part of life. It's part of what I grew up with and a small business, not a big business. It's small team, small business, marketing, same thing, overhead, rent, contracts, and I've seen my parents succeed and fail. I've seen my dad go bankrupt with his grocery store, but then I've seen my parents thrive with the jewelry store.
hmm,
So it's like you see all of it. You see the bad and the good. You see the cycles. You see value. You see so much of how to serve your client. You learn the art of negotiation. You learn the art of earning your money and how far it can carry you, and then appreciating that, right?
mm,
So, like the appreciation of money and how much it
mm.
costs to go to school, how much it costs to buy a car, how much it costs, like the sacrifices, as jewelry shop owners, my sister and I, we both went to Northwestern. And when we came home for winter break, what did we do? We didn't go skiing, we didn't go to Disney World. We worked in the jewelry shop
Mm,
and we wrapped presents. We were open Christmas Eve. We went to work with our parents,
yeah,
and did we want to go on vacation? Yeah, we did. But our parents paid us.
yeah,
They said, you're going to come to work and we're going to pay you. And we learned starting at age 16, even like earning money. Like they taught us how to earn money. And then what did you do with your money? And not only that, even when I was younger, like I remember fourth grade, my parents had a cash register. It was not digital. And I had to learn how to give change because back
yeah,
then people didn't buy with credit cards. It was cash.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, these earrings are $104. Now, this gentleman just gave me $20 bills and he gave me $120. What's the change? So I had to sit there and learn without a calculator how to give the correct amount of change with currency. So there was just so many life skills that we learned growing up in the small business. It wasn't just about running the business; it was also money,
yeah,
how to do math, how to create relationships with clients. People would come and they would say, "You know what, Mrs. Yum," to my mother, "I just bought this necklace 2 weeks ago, and the charm broke off." So my mom would be like, "Of course we're gonna fix it at no charge."
yeah.
Learning customer service, how to build those relationships, how to be someone that's gonna care for their clients. I used all of that in my dental practice to my patients.
Yeah,
"Oh, Doctor
beautiful.
Young, this sealant was placed, last month and it's already chipping." "Well, of course you're gonna replace it for free.
Yeah.
Of course we're gonna do it over again for you. Don't worry about it." So that is so important.
Is there anything that scares you?
Of course, there's a lot of things that scare me, you know. Um, I'm afraid to fail just like everybody else. I'm afraid of letting my kids down.
Mm,
I think part of growing up also with two working parents, I was a latchkey kid, and my mom and dad missed out on a lot
mm,
for me. And but that didn't mean that they didn't love me. I knew the sacrifice they were making so that I could go to school. They didn't show up at my swim meet.
mm,
You know, they didn't do the, they weren't there at my recital for orchestra. They weren't there for this, and I knew why. And there was part of me that felt sad about it, but deep down inside, I knew why. And even with my children, um, I missed out on a lot. I missed out on their first words, their first roll, their first walk, step.
mm,
Um, I missed out on a lot of it. And my mentor told me, work hard when they know you're not missing.
mm,
Put in your time when they're babies. All they need is love to be fed, change, and sleep. They're not even know that you're gone, but they're going to need you more when they start to realize you're gone.
mm,
And that is what I did. I worked really, really, really hard. And now my kids are in second, first grade. And now I've decided to stay home during this time when I know they need me now because I've missed a lot.
mm.
And now I'm like, I remember this one when my daughter was in kindergarten, she was in the nativity. The kindergarten nativity play is like the most sacred play every year that the kindergartners put on. And I missed the memo that I was supposed to send her to school in a white angel dress.
Oh,
She went to school in a uniform. I show up early to have seats to watch the nativity play in the front row. I was there an hour early. I could have gone home and come back with a dress. I had no idea. She was the
mm.
only one in the uniform, and I felt like I ruined the play. And she had no idea. And she was like, I was the most pretty angel in the whole show.
Oh,
But I was devastated. I was crushed when she walked into the
yeah.
gymnasium with her dirty school uniform on. My husband squeezed my knee. And you know what? Nobody judges the husband. They all
No.
judge the mom. And my mother was there because grandma had to come. My mom pinched me so hard. She was so mad at me. I I was devastated. Oh my gosh, like I was sitting there. I'm like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe it. I'm so embarrassed. And I was trying so hard not to cry, like
Oh,
in the whole school. And there's school pictures, and so I was devastated, and I won't ever live that down. And even to this day, so then the next year, because my kids are only 1 year apart, my mom, she's like, okay, Xander is going to be in that nativity
oh.
play, and she's like, better not mess up.
She brought the outfit with her just to be sure.
Oh, she
Oh,
was like, I can't believe it. She's like, you're so busy at work. You are not paying attention to your children.
yeah.
Like, talk about mom guilt. And I'm like, wait a second, where were you when I was growing up?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the beauty of it is what your daughter came out with it is that she was a beautiful angel princess on the stage. I mean, she didn't even know. The resilience is incredible.
Right. Well, yeah, thank God,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, thank God.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of other stories where, I've messed up. And
Yeah.
as moms who are working,
Yeah.
you know, it's just not easy. It's
No.
just not easy.
And that's why we're so grateful to you to have this support group for each other. So thank you for that. That's such a huge gift to this
Absolutely.
community. Before we go and before I ask you two final questions, let us know how we can find you. And we didn't even have a chance to talk about your podcast. So tell us how to find your podcast, how to find you online, how other dentists who have not found the MDIBs can find them.
Sure. So, thank you for this opportunity. The podcast is called Mommy Dentist in Business, and pretty much you can find it on all platforms. Spotify is probably the easiest for people. I would say, but it's also on Apple. You can find it on Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. It's spread out, sprinkled everywhere. You can even visit our website at mommydibs.com. And the Facebook group is Mommy Dentist in Business. Request to join, but please answer the questions because if you don't, then we don't respond. uh, so to answer all the questions, you must be a practicing or have practiced before in a private, in a setting, and you need to be a mom, of course, and that's why it's called Mommy Dentist in Business. So look us up, and on Instagram, we're on Instagram as well. And if you're interested in fashion and lifestyle, I have an Instagram handle, and it's dr_mrs_boss_mom. And so the reason why it's called Dr. Boss, Dr. Mrs. Boss Mom, sorry, it's a mouthful, is because those are my titles that I
Mm,
earned in chronological order. But mom not being the least important, that is the most important. But I became a mom at the very last stages. So
that's awesome. We'll definitely look you up. We'll definitely look you up. So, my first of the last two questions is, Dr. Yum, what is your superpower? I already know what it is, but what is your
oh, you're so
what
sweet.
is your superpower?
My superpower is to keep going. I
Mm,
think I have a lot of energy. And even if I am discouraged or feel knocked down, I just still keep going. And the imagery that I have in my head is a big elephant. You just keep marching.
I love it. I love it. And the second question is, all of this phenomenal empire that you have established, that you've built up, and in your practice before and in your podcast, all the valuable content that you've given to us, and all of MDIBs, if all of that were to disappear for some reason, and you could leave your two kids with one message for them to take forward into their lives, what would that be?
The message I would want my children to carry out in their lives is do what makes you happy.
Cool. It's perfect.
And it goes right with your podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do that because without happiness and not fulfilling your soul, then what meaning does it have?
Absolutely. And I think that that's playing out so beautifully in your life and in your journey as well. Is just every point I see you've turned towards happiness and then been resilient enough and brave enough to make that turn when you felt the draw.
Yes, definitely. Listen to your inner self and fill your soul to make you happy because you only have one life. And if you're passionate and you're happy, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. I really appreciate it. And I know that my audience will greatly appreciate this message from you. And definitely, please look up Dr. Yum and look up all the mommy dentists in business. It's an enormously valuable resource in my world. And thank you
Thank
again.
you. Thank you for having me and have
Absolutely.
a very happy holiday season and Merry Christmas and New
Thank
Year.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And to you too. And so please, folks, join me over on our private Facebook group. Dr. Yum's private Facebook group has been an inspiration of mine. And as you know, we're building the same empire over on the of Happiness Hive. So the goal is that we can create the same sense of community over there as well. So please join us and once again answer the questions and join the community and the conversation we have going there. And then, as always, please leave us a review on Spotify or iTunes. It's always super for us to be able to reach more people and deliver these wonderful messages to them. And until next time, today is going to be a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.